I love that. I just heard recording in progress, and I'm going to say Pam in progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else could hear that, but that's what happens when you hit record on Zoom. And good morning, good afternoon, good midday for you. How are you doing?
Almost midday.
Almost midday.
It's
Yeah,
late morning.
yeah,
Uh, and all is well.
yeah,
Happy to be here with you again.
yeah. Same, same. Yeah, and it's fall. It's officially fall. I know somebody might be listening to this at a different time of the year, but currently, um, uh, time-wise, it's very early fall, and I'm starting to actually feel it. So I'm really happy to be here too, and I want to check in with you and ask you that beautiful question, which is, B, how are you being?
Pam, I am being I am being as grounded as is capable for me right now. And this is something I know we're going to get into, and I don't mean to be mysterious. I just don't want to let the cat out of the bag quite yet. I am being as grounded as I can be in a season of change. And at the risk of saying anything else, I'm going to ask you, my friend, how are you being?
Season of change, just leaving it hang there. But
Mm-hmm.
that is very true. And when I mentioned that it's fall, that's yeah, that transition has started. Yeah, I feel like I'm being how I'm being is I feel a bit ungrounded. So maybe it's similar, as grounded as I can be, but also maybe a good amount ungrounded and just kind of floating from thing to thing and person to person. And, I'm sitting here, my feet are on the ground, but I'm feeling sort of a little bit floaty these days, um, and not quite as grounded as I like to be. So my control issues are rearing up.
That is so beautifully said, and I understand where you're coming from, and that's yeah, as grounded as I can be.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, there is a lot going on. It is a change of season. Um, and there's so many things that happen with that, and besides the weather. Um, but there's sort of a race to the end of the year. You just start to hear all of that.
Yeah.
And, just personally, we're always going through different seasons. And I think what I was hoping that we could talk about today is this idea of transitions. And we have talked about that several times here on the podcast. I think it's always a great topic to bring into the conversation because it's like I forget, that things are going to feel differently when something happens or when you're going through, let's say, a big life event. And I have shared, I try to keep it pretty general, but I've shared that I've had a loss, and I and so it's been about not quite even 5 weeks, since I lost my stepdad, and all of that was talk about transition. Wow, I just got a big I just got a really big, like the ultimate transition. Oh, wow. I'm feeling it all today. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think there's something about that transition that's very in your face and in your whole body. And um, and so I'm starting to have those first feelings of it being very real, mostly numb, and kind of going through all the logistics of it for the first month or so. And now the other part is starting to come out. And so
Mm.
I have my own transition with this of wanting to check to see if there's anything he needs. Oh, yeah, he's not here. Um, and, it just, it's where I'm at. And so there's a lot of stuff coming up with it. And this feeling of like ungroundedness is really natural at this time. Um, and part of me doesn't want to feel it at all. Part of me is like, no, 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 everything's fine. I am grateful that he is at peace. I am so grateful that he had a very short time when he wasn't very well, and then he died, but he was really living a glorious, beautiful life in a community until a very short time ago. So yeah, I think I'm really going through my own transition, and it's just starting to become apparent. Um, and so I think what I have been doing this time versus when my mom died, which was 10 years ago, is I'm giving myself so much more space and grace, and I'm leaning on people a lot more, and I'm not overloading my plate to the best of my ability. And that's going pretty well. Um, I also sometimes just feel like I'm so overloaded, even when I'm taking things off my plate. So, yeah, so there's just a lot going on with this, and it's how do I remind myself, honey, dear Pam, you are in a very big transition here. This is a very tender spot, and it will be for a while. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what it's all going to look like. Oh, I really want to. And so that idea of transition time is something that I've just been thinking about this last week in such a like connected way. And so I was so excited to talk with you today about it. And I want to check in with you. What does this bring up for you, this whole idea of transitions?
Oh boy. um, Thank you for bringing this conversation to the table and for starting it so eloquently. Transition brings up a lot, As you said, transitions are part of the life we all live. We're experiencing change even as we sit here talking within our bodies. And it's easy to intellectualize that idea and say, oh, yes, well, we're all changing all the time. We're all breathing oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, and things happen in the bloodstream and the cells. And yeah, that's all true. What you're bringing to the table is leaning in to transition and allowing ourselves to feel all the ways that we feel about it. And for me, this brings up grief. It brings up change. It brings up a version of reality. No matter what change we are addressing in our lives, whether it's a change of schedules, a change of positions, a change of roles, there is always something that we have to let go of in order to make room for what's next. And the tendency is to be excited about what's coming next and not give so much attention to how we feel about what we're letting go of. Do we have to grieve everything? No. We don't have to grieve anything. In my experience, when we don't, when we just kind of stuff it all down and wear the "it's fine" shirt, it's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine, those emotions tend to come out sideways. And we've talked about this on the podcast a lot as well. What happens when emotions get stifled and then they come out sideways? How do we pick up the pieces afterwards? So denying is a form of resistance. And In transition, in times of transition, in times of change, what I am learning this round is that resistance is futile. We can do it all we want. We can pour all of our energy into saying, no, I don't want any of this to change. I want it all to stay exactly the same as it's always been. We're pushing against the tide, right? We're trying to catch the waves and hold on to them and make sure they always stay just that shape in just that way at just that height. It doesn't happen that way. One of the things about change that I have always chuckled at is the idea that it's exciting. It is exciting for some people. It is also alarming for some people. It depends a lot on what we've experienced previously that reminds us, that we're reminded of during this change. It brings up a lot of old stories. There's a lot to be unpacked around any kind of transition. Loss, the loss of a beloved. There's no getting around that. Loss of work, loss of job, loss of identity through work, loss of partners, friends, pets. Those are the big ticket items. And we say, oh, that's so sad. We don't get excited about those changes because not all change is exciting. But we give ourselves the impression that the positive changes are supposed to be exciting. And then we wonder, what's wrong with me if I don't feel excited about this? And I've experienced this twice in my life. I'm not ready to share the first time because that feels a little too close to home, but I will share this most recent time. So, coming up for me soon is a new opportunity. And it is something that I've been working toward for a while. It is something that I feel is beneficial for myself and for people I love. And it is also uncomfortable for me to make room for this new endeavor. I've resisted making room for this new endeavor. I have said, well, that's not really going to happen anyway. So in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing this. And now here it is. My schedule is changing significantly. I'm going to have a new role at a company that's not mine. And people say, that's so exciting. I'm so excited for you. And I say, yeah, thanks. It's exciting. I'm excited. I'm not entirely excited. So what I'm doing is creating some time and space for myself to feel whatever I'm feeling about this, recognizing that it's my choice, recognizing that it's an opportunity to do something differently, recognizing that it is simply what's happening. I know all of those things in my head. My heart still keeps saying, well, maybe there's a way we can Well, what if we just hold on to, well, what if we just take this along? And that's part of what we do as humans, right? Because that, if I keep this piece, then I will still be okay. If I just hold on to this trinket, then I'll still be okay. If I just keep this connection, then I'll be okay. We will be okay, no matter what we take with us or don't. Because when you know who you are and you know how you want to show up, you are that person and you show up that way no matter what the role is, no matter what the title is. What I feel is beneficial in the face of a big change like this, that's not only going to touch me, but touch people around me in a lot of circles. What I feel is helpful is allowing myself the time to feel what I'm feeling, creating space for it so that I can clear that out of the way and make space for what's next. Navigating transitions, like so many other things, feels as small or as big as the importance of the transition. Does that make sense? If it was, for the next couple months, I'm going to be changing my schedule 2 days a week. That's doable. It's a change and people will have to adapt and be flexible. It's not a change with a capital C, right? These capital C changes are not really any different, except in the weight we give them. The stakes are higher. When we suffer a loss of a beloved, that is the highest stakes. When we have a life transition, change of employment, loss of employment, people move away, our circumstances change. That's part of life. It's how we bring ourselves through the occasion that is unique to each of us. When we recognize, honey, what do you need? Right? When we recognize what we need and give ourselves the time, the space, the tools, it doesn't mean we don't still feel it. It doesn't mean we don't still bump up against resistance. I mean, every time I turn around now, metaphorically speaking, I'm bumping up against resistance in some way about this, because there's a part of me that doesn't want anything to change. And I know that change is part of life. I say to people, you have the power to change because you have the power to choose. I advocate. I champion change because it's part of life. And when we navigate it, rather than being swept away by the tide, just like we've been talking about riding the lows, about floating, right? When we get ready for the rapids and we navigate this tumultuous shift, whatever it is, we are allowing ourselves to rise to the opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yes. So much all and in so many ways. And yeah, I think, that resistance is such a curious thing, because I think you really said it so well, which is, you know, I the idea of change is fabulous. The reality of change is, wait, 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 I'm not ready. Wait, 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 it doesn't look the way I think it's gonna look. Wait, 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 I I didn't really mean it. Like, I mean it, but I don't mean it. You know, it's all that, like, push me, pull me. So I think the resistance is just this natural kind of a buffer that helps us with kind of making sense of it all. And
Yeah.
it's really curious because the micromanaging for me, that just comes out so strongly
Yeah.
when all this is happening because I'm really trying to slow it down and I'm
Yes.
trying to control every single outcome because it feels like it's just happening way too fast. And I realize in the big world picture, I'm a real slow mover. I'm a slow to change person because that's my rhythm. And so I don't, I fear change on the one hand, I'm exhilarated by it on the other hand. It's not so much in between for me. It's like kind of extremes on both ends. So
Sure.
I fight for things not to change in whatever ways that are healthy and unhealthy and sometimes in some cases like I said I wanted this and now it's happening and now I'm doing everything I can to slow it down and then
Yes.
right and then other times I'm like when is this ever going to happen um but it's I'm not ready for it to happen and I was years ago I went to school to be a teacher and we talked about I remember learning about transition time in classrooms for students and I actually think that it's something that we all need in all parts of our life, but especially with the big events, especially with the things that will really cause our life to look pretty different in some ways. And as you so beautifully said, we're going to be exactly who we are in this new phase as well. Like there's something very comforting about that. When you said that, I realized, yeah, I get to still, I've had this loss, but I get to remember the love. I get to be happy that we had, the years that we had so connected. Um, and so this idea of transition time in a classroom is really about going from, one thing to the other. But I think in the big life picture, transition time is a necessity. So with these big changes, we don't always have the luxury of having like, I'm taking this, week off, I'm taking this day off. But I think what we can do is say, I'm going to take other things off my plate because this
Yes.
thing is going to fill up a lot of space.
Yes.
And when I start finding myself not taking enough off my plate, I know I'm going to start to micromanage. I'm going to start to feel more resistance. So, but that idea of transition time is a way that we can slow ourselves down. It's a way that we can have time to even process what's happening.
Yes.
It might be a Saturday afternoon where, yeah, the house needs some stuff done, or there's a list of things to go pick up, but there's no space for that at this moment because I can cram that in tomorrow with a couple other things or get some more help for that. But today I just need to be.
Yeah.
It helps us to actually then move from one thing to the other. So if we're dashing about all the time, we're not even processing any of it. We're not even being able to take the parts that we want to bring forward with us because we're sort of dashing. I'm just not a good dasher. If there's a like one day or weekend event or even a week long thing, I'm thinking of like summer camps that I've done over many times or big retreats, that kind of thing. Um, I'm at full speed the whole time, but the time before I need some downtime, and the time after I need double that. Whatever I took before, I need more after. And so this idea of transition time and the idea of first of all recognizing it, um, or if we're starting to what I would call for myself a lot like fall apart a bit, be feel sort of frayed at the seams. I that's a real sign to me that I need some transition time, that I need some downtime, that I need some less of things to do time.
Yeah.
Um, and then there are times when we know something's happening and we can build some of that in.
Yes.
What can I do? And how can I be extra gentle with myself as I'm in the new phase of this, because with anything big, I'm going to say those first 3 months critical.
Yeah.
For our own well-being.
Yeah.
You know, I my loss was 5 weeks ago. I'm just starting to feel it. You know, I've had some
Yeah.
tears, I've had some thoughts, but there was a numbness. Now it's like much more at the surface.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the end of an era in my life. It's a big
Yes.
thing, you know. It's really you know, a milestone in terms of, you know, how I'm going forward.
Yeah.
Um, and so so there's a gentleness, and really between now and the end of the year, I'm just going to do my best to build in a lot of transition time, a lot of space where I don't take on the extra stuff. And that's how I want to navigate that. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, you know, what are your thoughts on some of this, or do you have any plans? I know you started this, which is interesting. You started a few months ago. You talked about making some more space for yourself at this time of the year, like proactively. So
Yeah.
I wonder if this was part of that then, or it just is coincidentally lining up.
This is part of it. And I just keep reminding myself when I start to feel the resistance, what you always remind me of, it doesn't look the way we think it's going to look. And recognizing, oh, yeah, this is the part where I feel resistance. This is the part where I start to wonder if this is the best choice. This is the part where, right, this is familiar. I know this is part of the process. And it's just going to keep unfolding. And my job is just to keep showing up and moving forward. Thinking about from now until the end of the year, right? We're talking about in the Northern Hemisphere, the darker days. We're talking about going into this season of fall and winter and dormancy and choosing to slow down, choosing to honor that energetic rhythm of our bodies, of nature, and saying, okay, time to pump the brakes a little bit. Time to take some things off my plate. Time to say no so that I can say yes later on. Right? I enjoy this and I want to keep feeling this way about it. So rather than cramming it all in and rushing and trying to get everything squared away, I am going to adapt, right? And communicate and decide, how does this look moving forward? How does life look moving forward? Where do I need to ask for help? And that is something else that I am already doing this time around. I have already started to say to people, here's where I'm going to need your help. Here's where this is going to look different. How can we work together to figure this part out? Because I have to put this part down. Instead of, oh no, I got it. Oh no, I got it. Oh no, I got it. Not a problem. I got it. I'm on it. Don't worry about it. I got it. No. And people are rising to the occasion. People are saying, yes, here's how I can help. Great. Thank you so much. That's new for me. So going into this time of transition, I mean, you and I have talked about living parallel lives before.
Yeah.
It's not the same kind of transition,
Right.
but it is a significant life event.
Yes. Yes.
Going into this slower season, giving ourselves the time and space to slow down, nurturing ourselves through so that we can still show up in the ways that we choose to show up.
Yeah.
They're not going to look the ways they looked 6 months ago. It's okay. 6 months from now is going to look different as well. We don't know yet because we're not there.
We are not. We are not.
And because we know who we are and we're adaptable and flexible to the best of our ability, we'll figure it out.
I also think just having the space to get those thoughts out of my head is so helpful.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate our conversations because I really, I really want to feel all this. And I also want to be easier on myself. I I would be with anybody else. And I am being easier. And still every once in a while something rears up. Oh, you are so behind, or
Yeah.
you're not doing the extra you usually do. It's that kind of thing. And I think, yeah, I don't have space. And
Right.
sometimes I entertain that and I let it ruminate for a while. And other times I'm able to say, this is a very tender time,
Yes.
just go at your own pace, like literally.
Yeah.
And to that end, we're going to slow down a little bit on our publishing through the end of the year. We're going to take a little space here. So we'll probably talk about twice a month and take a little space and then see how we're doing at the beginning of the year. And I'm excited for the new year. Like that part, I always get excited about sort of the coming of a new year and the possibility.
Yeah.
But I got to be here now, and I got to slow down, and I got to make extra space for myself.
Yes.
I'm definitely not at full capacity, and I won't be for a while.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna just take a little extra space for ourselves as we wind up this year.
Yep.
Yeah,
We get to choose.
we do. We do. Thank you, V.
Thank you, Pam. So I'll see you again next week.
I will see you next week, and then
And then we'll start the 2-week
yeah,
part of the program.
yeah.
Delightful.
That sounds great. All right.
Looking
Take
forward
good
to it.
care.
Thank you, friend. You too.
Bye.
Bye.